This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Hello, everyone. Before we dive into today's episode, I wanted to remind you that my book, Drummers on Drumming, is available now on Amazon as both a paperback and an ebook. Based on the Big Fat 5 segment of this podcast, where I sit down with my favorite drummers to discuss the 5 records and stories that shaped their approach to the instrument, this book is packed with insights from the drummers who redefined how we think about the modern drum set. You can grab your copy now by checking the link in this episode's show notes or simply searching Drummers on Drumming on Amazon. So thank you for all the support, and now let's get into the show. What is up? Welcome back to Drummers on Drumming, a podcast powered by Big Fat Snare Drum. My name is Ben Hilsinger, and we're back with another installment of the Drum Panel. This week, Eric is back, and we also have Ralph Alexander, who is out on the road with Poppy. He's probably the best drummer I've ever seen live. So, yeah, we definitely were all over the place today. I'm in LA, Eric is in Chicago, and Ralph is in London right now. Oh, and also, I'm very aware that we never did part 2 with Rafa on the Chick Corea's cheap but good advice for playing music in a group, and it's because Rafa's on tour. He was in Japan, now he's in Brazil. He's all over the place. So when he gets back stateside, or when he gets back able to record, we will, and we will do part 2. But in the meantime, enjoy this episode with me, Eric, and Ralph. Cheers. Was the last time I saw you, Ralph, was that the Wiltern with Terry? Wow, that wasn't a year ago, was it?
No, yeah, almost, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, that would have been the spring U.S. headliner, and that was the last show, and that would have been, man, we did 2 months in the U.S., and then we went home right after that show for a week, and then flew over to Europe for 2 months. So it was basically a 4-month tour. We got home from that one, and we were just cooked. Everybody was cooked, so.
Well, I mean, seeing your show, I can speak physically. I'm sure you're just dead after a tour like that too. You're not just going through the motions.
Yeah. I mean, I had this conversation a lot with my girl. It's just, she's always like, "Oh, it must be nice to be home." And I'm like, yeah, when I'm home, I allow myself maybe 5-7 days to just like do nothing, watch TV and order pizza and relax. But then after that, it's like the clock's ticking because we got the next thing coming up, and I got to start getting the cardio going again, exercising, practicing and stuff. So it's like when I'm home, it's not really off time. It's usually just kind of like maintenance time and getting better. And, these days it's just getting older. You have to start working harder and harder. Not only just like, if you want to get better, that's even more, but just to maintain, you have to work even harder. So it's like, I've gotten into running, which I hate, but helps, right? It helps the legs, helps the cardio and stuff. And there's this big hill right by our house in Nashville. I've been running up that thing 5 times a morning. And I got my girl to do it with me a few times, and she walks it. She goes, "Man, fuck this." But I was running it. The first week, it was like, the first 3 runs I could do, and then the last 2, I would just kind of like jog them or walk them. But then towards like right before we left for this run, I was doing like all 5 running them. Still dying in the middle, but it's just like, there's definitely progress. So yeah, it's a lot, and especially this gig. So
after those 5 days of you kind of like allowing yourself to chill, you notice it in that first day back? You feel yeah.
It's a grueling show. It's a grueling set, especially now because we have a little bit of a costume thing going on. We have these masks, and we'll have like stuff that we're wearing. And so it's like, I'm envious of guys that I see that go up there with like a jeans and a t-shirt, and they can wear like whatever shirt they want.
Yeah.
But also, like, our whole thing on stage is cool. Like, it's cohesive. Everyone's kind of blending into the same kind of image, and we're all doing the same thing with the masks. And it's just, she always has great vision and what she wants, and I respect it.
So if you could be a fly on the wall for any record, what record would that be?
I mean, I'm thinking of which Zeppelin record.
Yeah.
Because the cool thing with Zeppelin is that they're so mysterious. And these days, everyone knows everyone's everything. You sign with any label or anything, they're just like, we need you to post X amount of content a week about what's going on. Let's get some behind the scenes footage of the album. It's like Zeppelin, who fucking knows what they were doing, right? God, which Zeppelin record? 4 would be worth it just to see Bonham track When the Levee Breaks. I mean, that's just like the whole story about that being in the stairwell with apparently one mic hanging down, and just getting that sound, the most iconic, heaviest drum sound in history, just to be there for that would be really cool. I don't know. Did you guys see the Zeppelin documentary that came out?
Oh, incredible.
Yeah. I would have said Zeppelin 1 if that documentary didn't exist, but then I guess that was a little bit of that, but maybe either 4 or Houses of the Holy. But I think 4 was just like there's just so many classics that would be my choice probably.
All right, and the second question is, what piece of gear have you had the longest?
I don't know if it counts as gear, but I have a Slayer shirt that I've had since I was a kid. And I travel with it everywhere I go. It's my security blanket.
That is amazing.
That's so sick.
Yes, show me.
It's in my backpack everywhere I go.
Does it stay in the backpack, or do you sleep with it?
No, it doesn't fit me anymore.
Oh, damn, dude.
So I got this when I was a kid, and I told myself that when I play Madison Square Garden, that'll be when I make it, right? So
yeah.
That tour, that was the Smashing Pumpkins tour, and for that particular tour, we were wearing these jumpsuits. So I wore it underneath it, and I probably weigh 40 pounds more than I was when I was 12, 13, whatever. So it was, it was tight getting it on there, and like damn near impossible getting it off. But got it on there. I wore the jumpsuit over it, played that show, had a great show. My family was there. It was awesome. And then that was the last time I ever wore it. So the sweat stains on it are still from that show. And I've never played a show probably in 20 years without that shirt with me somewhere. And when I go home, I hang it up. I have a little case for it in my studio. I put it in there. That, and I have a ride symbol that my mom gave me still. But yeah, the Slayer shirt, I got that everywhere I go. So
where'd you get the Slayer shirt?
Probably Hot Topic, honestly.
Hey, yeah.
Back in the Hot Topic days, I think I got it there. People look at it, and I've had people like, oh man, I'll give you like $500 for that shirt. It really does look like it's from the 80s or whatever. Like they'll think like it's from this show that took place at the Rock Palace Saturday, June 30th. There's no date on it, but I'd be like, actually, it's from like 2003. $500. I mean, I wouldn't sell it for anything, but still, it's funny.
All right, so what was the first song you guys learned that felt like a true accomplishment on the drums?
For me, it was Smells Like Teen Spirit. I remember how long it took me to get the double kick drums leading into the backbeat, the doon gat gat the doo gat, that one. And then also just being able to do quarters on the hi-hat instead of eighths for that groove. That was like the first time I had like really sat down and was like, I'm going to learn this like as it is on the record.
Yeah, Smells Like Teen Spirit was the early one for me too. But I think the first one for me for sure was there's a live version of Heartbreaker on the How the West Was Won triple disc live record they put out in 03 or 02. It's way different than the record version. It's way faster. Bonham does like crazy amount of fills in it. Just trying to learn all of those fills and a lot of the fancy kick stuff that he was doing. To my new drummer ears, it just sounded like, what is this freak doing back there? But just really dissecting those fills and like trying to learn what he was doing, and I think that would have been my first one.
Yeah, for me it was probably First Date by Blink-182. That bridge where it's like a 1 and a 2, 3 and a 4, and opening up on the back beats, and then the kick drum kind of does this like boom boom cat boom 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 cat boom 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 cat, and I don't know, in my head I was like jungle beat, it was like this weird hip hop jungle beat. I don't even think he's playing the one boom boom cat boom 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 cat boom boom. Yeah, it felt so disorienting that when I figured it out, it was like my brain finally clicked and like, oh, things that don't feel good can also sound good, because I dissociated with like, this feels weird to play, so it's probably also sounds shitty. Yeah, I was so proud of myself when I learned that.
Dude, those early Blink songs were way ahead of their time, man. He was on fire for sure.
I just saw them last weekend. I wish they got off the click. I think they're kind of leaning into their acknowledgement that a lot of people just want to go for nostalgia. It's not like back in the day when they wanted to hear the new music, they're obsessed. So I think now they're kind of settling into, let's play the songs at studio tempo. And I think it did lose a little bit of energy for me. It's too polished now. And I wish they would go back to being a little more sloppy. I mean, Tom's guitar is still sloppy and it sounds perfect, but now I'm scared he's going to listen to this and be pissed. But
I mean, yeah, he's undisputed, honestly.
Yeah.
It's like you can listen to a drummer and go, oh, that guy grew up listening to Travis Barker. There's not a lot of drummers you can say that about.
He's like that genre's, there's like the Joey Jordisons, at least of my coming up time, right? It was like Joey Jordison, Travis, and like Carter Beauford. Like there's all these guys that were just like huge influences on the whole generation.
When you're jamming with people, you're reacting. And when you're reading charts, you're also reacting. And so there's a bad connotation with reading charts because producers, and I think Brendan Buckley talked about this last weekend, where producers have said, I can hear you reading the charts. But how is that different than jamming and reacting in real time and reacting to the music? You're going to be behind the beat if you're listening to it for the first time too. So why is that take sometimes the better one?
Well, for me, I think when you're reading a chart, there's a definite hesitation in your playing. And I think that's what people pick up on.
Okay.
If you're just jamming with somebody and you're just coming up with stuff on the spot, like the stuff you're coming up with is stuff that makes sense to you, right? But if you're reading a chart and you're focused on that, it's like usually parts that you maybe wouldn't come up with or something. So there's just always that, at least that's how it was for me when I was in school, just like the hesitation of like, that's an odd fill. I would never really voice it that way. But if you're improvising, it's like you're only going to play what you're comfortable playing. That would be my guess.
And I acknowledge that. I'm just saying that both of those processes have a delay in either you're receiving the information for the first time and thinking of something and then playing that, executing it. There's still a time that takes, that progress. And it's like, is it a longer process when you're reading as opposed to digesting the information and then doing what you want to do? There's still going to be a delayed reaction, whether it's coming from you or reading it. You know what I mean?
I feel like, first of all, there probably is a longer delay for most drummers when they're reading. I'm sure there's some drummers who are so fluid at reading a chart where that delay is like next to nothing. But I would say that a chart is inherently less intuitive because you have a little bit of foresight where you don't have that foresight when you're just listening. It's purely reactive. It's purely just like going off of what's happening. You're going in totally blind. So I think I would say it's probably not about like latency in your interpretation. I would assume it's more about getting a more raw, intuitive response without a chart.
And thank you for saying the word latency, because that's the word I could not think of when I was the time limit progress.
My CPU's overloaded.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, God, tell me about it. What I'm trying to say is, for me, I feel like I could play better if the chart's in front of me and I kind of read a little bit ahead. I actually feel like I would have more feel and that I would be more confident in my playing if I knew what was coming.
I also wonder if it really depends on the producer too, because there's that school of thought of like, I want the uncomfortable take, the kind of humanness of being uncomfortable. Like, I totally agree with you, Ben, that I would feel probably more comfortable with the chart and knowing what I'm going into. But I think that sometimes you get that weird rawness magic that happens when you go in blind, and maybe you do a fill in the wrong spot and it sets up the chorus differently than it's supposed to, but it ends up being like the take that they keep because it's cool, you know?
They're going to quantize it anyways. Who cares? Just go to the next song. Seriously. What are we even talking about? Why does it even matter?
This episode is brought to you by Redfin. You're listening to a podcast, which means you're probably multitasking. Maybe even scrolling home listings on Redfin, saving homes without expecting to get them. But Redfin isn't just built for endless browsing. It's built to help you find and own a home. With agents who close twice as many deals, when you find the one, you've got a real shot at getting it. Get started at redfin.com. Own the dream.
Halliday presents, in the red corner, the undisputed, undefeated Weed Whacker Guy. Champion of hurling grass and pollen everywhere. And in the blue corner, the challenger, extra strength Halliday. Eye drops that work all day to prevent the release of histamines that cause itchy allergy eyes. And the winner by knockout is Halliday. Halliday, bring it on.
Well, so I was grappling with this today because I had a somewhat busy morning, and then I'm doing this, and then really nothing concrete that I have to do for the rest of the day. I'll probably still work on the million things on my to-do list, but nothing really time sensitive. And so what's your relationship with work, and at what point can you be like, I've done enough for today. I'm just going to allow myself to be a human that experiences joy and relaxation in the world. What a thought. But what's your relationship with that?
Well, I have a daily routine. I get up, I do my cardio stuff, and then I work out. And then usually by noon, I'll eat something. And then after that, that's when I'll go in to my studio, and I'll work in there until about 3 or 4. Just work on stuff, technique stuff. If I have to get ready for something, I'll do that. I have like my own full studio recording spot, so it's where I did the last 2 Poppy records. So I do a lot of remote tracking for other people. But when I'm home, like as long as I get the essentials, as long as I get a good morning in, and I hit the pad and I keep everything limber and loose. If I don't feel like playing, like there's a lot of days where it's just like my mom and my 2 older brothers, they're artists. It's like some days you don't feel like painting, some days you don't feel like drawing, some days it's just not there. And doing enough of these tours where it's like you don't have that option. When I'm home, if I don't feel like doing it, I don't do it. I'll go back in the house and I'll relax with my girl or my dog or whoever and just hang out the rest of the day. Because I think the older you get, rest and relaxation is just really, really important. It's just like off days on the road. It's like this is not anywhere like a braggadocious statement, but I've been to all these cities so many times. It's like, especially in Europe, you can only see the same cathedrals like so many times. So like your off days, you have to just start prioritizing rest and just like recharging your batteries, because when you're young, it's like, oh man, I'm in every city. This is great. And you got to go out and you got to see everything. And that's when inevitably you're going to get sick. You're going to get run down. I've really started to prioritize my rest and not just feel like I have to be go all the time. So as long as I get a good morning in and I get a good time in on the kit and make sure that I feel like I'm at status, then I'll go in and hang out with the dog.
What about you, Eric?
For me, I generally try to keep sort of a 9 to 5 structure. So I would say, like, generally speaking, during the hours of 9 to 5, I'll like go to the gym. I'll make sure that I have practice time in there. I'll make sure I have time to like work on any Ableton playback sessions I got to work on for upcoming gigs, or edit videos that I'm working on, creating content. So it's like, if I can keep a routine, like this is a job because it is, then it keeps me more focused. So some days are more heavy on like, say, Ableton projects than practicing. Other days are more practice heavy than anything else. But yeah, and then I'll be gigging most weekends, so generally I'll let myself relax when I have some downtime. And then like when my wife's home from work, then it's like, okay, it's family time. We get to chill and take advantage of that time together.
Yeah, that was a big thing for me, like being in a serious, we're engaged now, about to be married, was learning how to be present in situations when it's like it's not work time. Before that, it's always just been me, so I had the freedom to like, I can think about anything drum related as much as I want. I can think about it while I'm eating dinner or watching whatever. But it's like once like her day is over, because she works for a tech company, when the 9 to 5's done, I had to learn how to make like a conscious effort to listen, like when she'd tell me about her day, and like not have it go in one ear and out the other, and she's telling me about her day and her workplace drama, and I'm over here thinking about, inverted parental or some bullshit. So that was a learned skill. So that took time for sure. And now having a domesticated life, which I didn't have ever until now, that was definitely something I wasn't used to. So coming off the road is like, getting your bearings and being like, all right, now I'm back at home. I can't just think about this stuff all the time. I have to be present for her as well. And that took time. So
Yeah, I'm in the throes of being a single freelance musician and just being able to be as selfish as I want right now. Yeah, I have a hard time with it, because there's so much freedom throughout my day that it's sometimes I wish I had a little more structure, and that's on me. But I get a lot of my work done at night, and I'm similar to you guys. I wake up, go to the gym, and then I practice till about maybe 11 or noon, similar to Ralph, because my gym's right next to my studio. And then the middle of my day is a little bit just kind of whatever happens, but I'm a night owl and I just work at night. But I wish I was better at just putting my computer down and being like, just don't be drummer, insert whatever title you have. Just be Ben, just chill. Because I would say most of the things that have actually moved the needle forward for me, minus actually physically practicing, has been the thoughts when I'm actually allowing myself to relax. That's when things actually click. That's when creativity happens. And it took me a long time to learn that. There's something to be said about people just do the work and the creativity will seep in. But sometimes that's the worst thing I can do, is just overwork myself.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what I personally had that for years too. It was just like constantly practicing and practicing and practicing, and then you get into a different situation. It's like, well, I have other priorities that I have to take care of as well. So it's a balance. It's a constant balance for sure.
Well, and also in our line of work, rarely exactly how many hours put in means exactly the amount of output you're going to get. Sometimes it's down to you put one video out that took you 20 minutes and that begets 7 years of income, or you can be working on something for 6 months and then no one cares about it.
Well, one of the things that I kind of took away, I wish I could remember where I stole this from, but like on those days where maybe you don't feel like doing a whole lot, one of the big takeaways that I took from somebody is, if in a day I can improve my body, if I can improve my craft, if I can improve my relationships, then that's a good day. So it's not about how much those improve. It's just about that you spent a little bit of time improving those things every day. That's a great takeaway that kind of takes a lot of the pressure off. And if you can keep that incremental progress up every day on all those three things, who knows where you'll be at. Exactly. Progress is progress.
Yeah. I will say I will gladly accept a day off on the road to do nothing. Because to me, resting is part of the job. So at least that's how I've justified it. So it's like on a day off, like I know some people, they'll have like their practice pads and stuff, which I've done that before too. And they'll hit it in their room. Or if you're like a guitarist or bassist or singer or whatever, they'll bring like an interface in the room and they'll write and do stuff like that. It's like, with drums, it's so much more of a physical thing on show days that you have to prioritize some rest.
I agree. On days off, I can be the biggest sloth in my hotel room like no one's business. Because maybe it's because I'm in not my own bed. I feel like, oh, you're still doing something with your life,
Yeah. And you're still getting paid on a day off. So you're still...
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Technically working.
Well, Eric, I told you to bring on some I said saucy, and you said they were spicy. And then, we'll finish off with those.
Yeah, all right. I have a couple here, and I'm curious to hear your guys' takes on. So I do this every Wednesday where I post asking people to send in their spicy, controversial drumming or music opinions. So this one I got that was interesting, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it. Drummers are better when they learn jazz.
I'd say so. I mean, I learned... No, I would in no way call myself a jazz drummer, but I learned the basics when I was in school. And, learning how to read and sight read and do stickings and voicings with what you're reading on the kit over a jazz groove definitely helped a lot in just like basic independence. So I don't think that's a controversial take at all. I think learning a little bit of every genre, like why wouldn't you want, even if it's the smallest tool, why wouldn't you want that tool in your tool bag, right?
Yeah, I always get in the weeds on stuff like this. So I'll push it sometimes. So I would say, like, unequivocally, yes, learning jazz does for sure make you better. But I always find it interesting that jazz is always the first thing that people reach for. And I do think that though jazz can make you a better drummer, I also will talk to people about, like, if jazz doesn't resonate with you, there's a wealth of information in any number of genres that will make you an incredible drummer. So I think that the idea of a jazz drummer being better than a rock drummer is kind of where I took it. That's where I think it gets a little bit spicier, I should say.
I mean, if I were to be honest, I would say like an actual seasoned real-time jazz drummer, I think they're on a different level. And I think if we're just talking about rock or even just metal, whatever, you can find drummers in both genres that they can kind of fake it. I mean, and I love Meg White. I think she's great in White Stripes, but she's not doing anything crazy, but she's still a rock drummer.
Yeah.
How many of those can you find in jazz? You know, you can find plenty of Instagram videos of kids playing metal stuff, playing a blast beat, just hitting really fast, really hard. And I don't know anyone that's like faking their way through jazz stuff. It's like you either know it or you don't. So it's the oldest language on the drums, on the drum kit, right? So I think it's impressive in its own. I think it deserves, in my opinion, the top spot that it has, just in creativity and improvisation and technical ability and independence and feel and just all this stuff. Like the hardest thing for drummers, at least for me, is space, and that's what they live in space. You know, well, probably literally, but you know, that's their currency is big, wide open space, and they're playing it. That's always the hardest thing for me. So as someone who's not a jazz drummer, I certainly have an enormous amount of respect for what they do and how they do it. So that'd be my opinion.
It depends on you got to define what better means, you know, because there are some people that what they need out of music, like music is how the energy, that they only listen to high power music. And if you were to ask that person, they'd be like, oh my God, I think that I get so much more out of a drummer like Meg White than I do out of, you know, Tony Williams, because that's what they need. And I'm Tony Williams might be a bad example because he has hit as hard as Meg White, but there are some jazz drummers that are amazing in that genre, and then you take them and put them in rock and they don't have that weight to them. And so in certain ways, I'd be like, well, rock's also pretty difficult to accomplish as well. It's not just like any jazz drummer can also do rock, but not rock people can all do jazz, you know, if that sentence, I'm not even going to edit that. Let's just pretend that made sense. But I think you know what I mean. It's not a two-way street, you know. And so when it comes to this, I also break down to what people are really saying when it comes to is jazz drumming is its essential elements. And I'm formulating this in real time, so I'm sure there's more, but it's like playing with lower dynamics, potentially with a lot of control, setting up the band, phrasing, comping, experiment, like the thought of there are no rules. If you lean into like the Elvin Jones school of jazz, I think there's a lot you can take away from jazz that you don't necessarily need to learn jazz to get those. It's just what, for the people that stand on that hill and say that, it's like, well, what are the things of jazz that you think make it better? And Ralph, you said it, and I agree with everything you said. Those elements, if you can learn those separate from jazz, you're probably going to be great. You know, it's separate from even like a genre. Yeah, it's kind of you got to define what better means. You know,
right. Yeah, I think when it comes to jazz, it'd be like asking Quentin Tarantino what he thinks the greatest filmmakers are. I'm sure it would be a bunch of guys that no one ever heard of in movies that no one's ever watched. But, you know, there's a reason why Michael Bay movies do well and all of Tarantino's lists no one's ever heard of. It's the same reason why drummers, like we're having a debate about jazz. Jazz is not mainstream, you know, maybe a couple records, you know, everyone's heard Kind of Blue, but name some obscure jazz records that some nerd would name as the best of all time. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah, what I often wonder about this is like, I'm curious if people who grow up in like the rock and pop tradition are so mystified by jazz because the language is so foreign. Like, we're not as familiar with the ground rules of jazz, so everything that we hear a jazz drummer do sounds incredible and mystifying and like unfathomable to our 2 and 4 backbeat brains.
Or bad.
Or bad, sure. Yeah, 100%.
I think one of the reasons why I didn't get into jazz growing up is because maybe someone like showed me Bitches Brew and then like one after that I was like, what is this? And I was like, this sounds stupid. And I'll just admit it. I was a punk rock kid. I wasn't not into jazz because I revered it. I was like, I don't get it at all. And then as I got into drumming more, I was like, I clearly get it now. But sorry to derail you, but I mean, like, that's just, it was not all positivity why people don't get into it, you know?
Right. No, I mean, it's super valid. And I often wonder, like, how much that goes the other direction. You know, it's similar to what you said, Ben, about it being not a two-way street. How often I guess it's hard to compare because someone who listens to jazz, like, they don't live in a vacuum. They're going to be exposed to rock and pop music somewhere, you know, shopping at Target or whatever. But like, I wonder if there's something unfathomable and untangible about somebody who's maybe isolated in the jazz world that's like foreign to them about rock and pop music, you know? I'm sure it's a very similar perspective when you break down certain Latin genres, right? It's like, oh, this is like, I barely know what I'm listening to, right?
Exactly.
Where's the one? That kind of thing. I often wonder if it's like, if jazz always comes out because we're so brought up with 2 and 4 that jazz just feels like this mystical superpower, where if we grew up in a tradition where everything was kind of spang-a-lang pattern, hi-hat 2 and 4, if there's a world or a universe where rock is like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Well, it's less approachable, I think, to a lot of people. And I'll equate it to, in my mid-20s, I've talked about it in the podcast, but I kind of stopped doing drums and I went to school for winemaking, and I was working at a wine tasting shop in the summers. And one of my favorite things to do was to have like the girl come in, and I'm generalizing, but this has usually happened. A girl would come in and she'd bring her boyfriend, a bigger guy that only drinks Coors Light and was kind of like, I know nothing about wine. All tastes the same to me. And then I would try to beta them and just be like, dude, you're cooler than me, but let me just let you, I'll do a Pinot Noir and a Cab. They're totally different. See if you can taste the difference there. And if you can, then we'll go even closer and whatever. And one of my favorite things to do was to just change them into being like, you are tasting the same thing that everyone else is tasting. You just don't know what to look for. Same with like classical music. You're hearing all these different changes and modes and movements that someone who is obsessed with the genre is hearing. You just need to know what to look for. And so I think a lot of times people just don't understand jazz. And so it just sounds so unapproachable, and they go, only the best can play it. I'm not sophisticated enough. Also, I think it sounds bad. I don't even want to be sophisticated enough. So by Family Reunion by Blink-182.
But I think it's interesting to see like what resonates with certain people. I love jazz. It's fascinating to me. I have, all the respect in the world to my jazz musician friends. I'm a terrible jazz player. It does not resonate with me at all as a player. But like Latin music, I love. And that like clicked with me really early on. And I don't know why. Like I'm a horrendous metal drummer. I cannot play double bass pedal to save my life. I love listening to people do it. It's like one of my favorite genres, but I cannot do it as a player. It's interesting to see how things kind of click with different drummers and different artists.
Yeah, I agree.
It's the way your brain works. Some people, I mean, there's sometimes if I'm in a really overstimulated ADHD mindset, I love listening to weird time signatures and trying to figure out a rhythm and how many times they do the upbeat versus the downbeat. If it's like a New Order song, because like those little nuances in the bass are the part that moves throughout the song, and I forget what drummer it was, but he was just saying how jazz for him is when he wants to turn his brain off. That's when he doesn't analyze it, because jazz, he doesn't understand it. So that's actually the one genre that he can just enjoy, So maybe that's why I'm subconsciously keeping jazz at bay, because it's actually stimulating for me in a different way.
Yeah, exactly.
Or just a foot cam of Ralph's feet during a Poppy show. It's so above what I can comprehend. So I would just be like, I'll just appreciate it.
Yeah, don't get a double bass pedal. Trust me.
What's a few more saucy takes? Then we'll let Ralph go.
Okay, all right. This person says drum academics often get so technically good they forget how to sound good.
Depends on the player. Because if that's your personality already, then it's just translating to your playing. So, I had Garsko was over at my house like 2 weeks ago. We did a lesson. He gave me a lesson, just to be clear. That guy knows everything. I mean, that guy is a wealth of information, absolute genius on the drums, and I think he sounds incredible. I think his feel is like flawless. Like he's a complete and total package. It just depends on the player, and no disrespect whatsoever, but like a Mangini is extremely technical, extremely studied, and you hear it in his playing. He does these breakdowns that I've watched where he's talking about like, the guitar part is doing this high note here, so I played the high snare for that part, and then and then if you listen, the riff is doing this thing where it's going down the scale, so then I matched it with the cymbals that go down the thing. I'm just like, dude, that's so impressive. Like, you are the only guy noticing that, and if you hadn't said anything, like maybe a couple other people, it's like, and he'll throw in like these crazy technique things into his playing, which of course all of us enjoy, but the average listener is just like they're not picking up on that. So I think he would be an example of like a Guardsko would go this way and then a Mangini would go this way. And it's just all about how you utilize what you've learned. If you're playing something because that's in your tool bag, that's not really the point of it. The whole point of it, in my opinion, is to have it when you need it, not to just use it because you can. So I think that's the difference in how their playing sounds.
I love that. And to make sure I respond to that correctly, can you re-say the verbiage that the question was, Eric?
Oh, yes. It's drum academics often get so technically good they forget how to sound good.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So my statement to that, or the caveat to that, is are they saying that the person initially sounded good, then became an academic, and then didn't sound good? Because if that's the case, that is a whole nother discussion. But what I would want to know is a lot of times the people that are academics that don't sound good probably never sounded good.
That's what I would say.
They're exactly. So that's probably the case. I think if someone feels good, like Garska, like the two guys I'm talking to right now, I would say that it wouldn't matter how amazingly technical and academic you get, you guys would always try and feel good. That would, I think, ultimately be your priority. So, yeah, I think when you see someone who knows everything and they don't feel good, I don't think the reason they know everything is why they don't feel good.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. No, I like that take a lot. I think I very much agree with both of you. I'm always like nervous about this kind of take because this kind of thing always feels like it's a veiled excuse to not want to learn more. You know 100%. What I mean? 100%. And that always makes me nervous. It always kind of pops up little red flags. And it's always like I do think that what this person is saying is possible, but it always kind of like I always think of like that punk rock mentality. It's not always, but that idea of like you can sound good, but don't you dare get too good at your instrument, And I always get a little bit wary about people who are nervous about learning more because they feel like it'll take away their feel.
You just have to acknowledge that. It would be honest with yourself, and what you're actually saying is, if that's the case, that's the excuse, and they're honest with themselves, it's because they don't want to learn that stuff. Mm-hmm. And so if you make excuses, and so maybe just acknowledge that there will be some handicaps in your playing, but you chose that. And that's not how you want to speak on the instrument, well then yeah, don't sit there and grill double bass over an inverted paradiddle. Fine. But know that if that ever comes up and that is what they want, you can't do it, and you got to be okay with that realization. Mm. But if you just want to be I'm not saying he can't do it. I'm sure he can open the hell up. But I was watching this Fred Eltringham video earlier today where they were doing this kind of indie version of this Aphex Twin song. And the piano player was kind of doing this arpeggio kind of fast, and then Fred just came in just so slow, and it was the perfect thing. And he excels at that. And if he told me, he's like, yeah, I just that's how I want to speak. So like, I really don't care about chops, then that's fine. I agree, Eric. I think people just aren't honest with themselves. That is an excuse. But that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. Just have it be the excuse in your head and just kind of dig deeper and be okay with your atrophies.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's like a few famous exceptions. It's like Tom York in Radiohead. Like Johnny Greenwood has said many times that he's encouraged him not to get better with theory because he wants that contrast between Greenwood, who knows all of that stuff, and then York, who knows none of that stuff. Like that works for them. Mm-hmm. And then like Jack White used to tell Meg White all the time to not practice ever. So I think in some cases, but I think the average person saying like, oh, I don't want to learn a bunch of stuff because I don't want to change my sound. It's like, okay.
Yeah. yeah.
I think your sound's going to be okay, but is the sound in the room with us right now?
Yeah. You know who said that? Me when I was 19 years old before I went to college.
Oh, yeah.
And showed up and got my ass completely handed to me. So
I think that's exactly how I feel. I instantly flash back to high school me, and I'm like, no.
Yeah. If you're on a hit record and you've sold 1 million copies of something like the White Stripes or Radiohead, then yeah. Live in your theory ignorance for the rest of your life because clearly it works. But until you do that, it's like I
want to live there too.
Let's cut the crap here, right?
All right, last one, Eric. Make it a good one.
Let's try this one. All right, electronic drums aren't real drums.
Define real.
That's a great question. What are real drums, right?
I mean, I've heard you talk about this before, Eric, and I agree with you. I think that there should be, and maybe Nord kind of did this, and Sunhouse/Sensory Percussion are kind of doing this, but stop trying to make electronic drums emulate real drums. I mean, I also want them to try to continue because I think it is very convenient, especially with the cymbals. We are not there yet. But what do you think, Ralph?
I'm not in favor of like gatekeeping anything. Like if that's what works for you, then do it. I personally have no interest in owning an electronic kit. I really enjoy pulling the sound out of something, and I feel like electronic drums, you're pushing the sound out, right? It's coming out of a speaker, it's coming out of your headphones. Drums is just different, and there's just like, there's a million ways to get a million different sounds out of every drum and every cymbal. The way you hit it, the way the kind of sticks you're using, are you using brushes, are you doing this? It's like electronic drums aren't that at all. It's a mesh pad that's triggering electronic response, but it's still musical. How many hit records from the 80s that we all love and listen to, like how many of those were the sounds created with electronic kit? How many Depeche Mode songs do we all love that were all electronic kits, or Tears for Fears, or whoever, like name your big 80s hit, right? So I think to say that it's not real, that's why I said define real. It's just like I just don't believe in like gatekeeping stuff like that. Like those are always like the most annoying kids to me growing up. It's like, oh, so-and-so's not a real drummer. It's like, well, define real drummer. What are you talking about? So
sure.
If you can use it and there's an application for it and it sounds good, like what's his name? Butch plays electronic kit.
Yeah. Butch Vig.
So is he not a real drummer? So I think that stuff's just, I think that's kind of silly. And speaking of like Brendan, like he has that whole hybrid kit. I was just watching his breakdown today. So he's got, I think when you merge those things, I think that's when you really reach kind of an apex of like the total instrument, right? So I don't care if that's what works for you. Then that's what works for you. Like play whatever you need to play to get your thing out, your sound, your whatever's in here gets it out. If it's a Roland kit or a Yamaha kit or whatever it is, fucking use it. Who cares?
Can I also just point out that you touched on something that I really admire about your playing, Ralph, which is your ability to pull the sound out of the drums while playing insanely technical things. That's like the coolest thing for me to watch is someone who's playing just really intensely impressive things, but still pulling a great sound out of the drum.
Thank you. Thank you.
Cool to watch.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, man.
Well, did that come natural? I'll piggyback off that. Did that come naturally to you, or is that a conscious thing, or did you find that there's certain tuning that works well with your playing that happens, or how conscious is that these days?
I think it's just because all my favorite drummers, like none of my favorite drummers are like these super crazy metal guys. Like my favorite bona fide metal drummer is like Dave Lombardo, who when you really listen to him, he's just a heavier version of Bonham. So he played, a real kid, no triggers, none of that stuff. So I think there's a lot of cats out there these days that like have these crazy kits with triggers and all this stuff going on. And no disrespect, I mean that's what they do is incredible. But let's not lie to ourselves and say that they're pulling any sound out of their kit. They're not. They're utilizing triggers, which is the opposite of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think just all the drummers that I grew up with and really liked, they were masters of that. And it's the same kind of thing with like when they talk about Stevie Ray Vaughan. Like you can get all his pedals and you can get his guitar, but it's still in the fingers. So you can have the greatest kit or whatever, but you still have to pull that sound out of it. Yeah, I think it was just I just feel very fortunate that the influences that I had growing up were all of those kinds of players. I think more people should say this. I like the way I play. I enjoy it, right? I think there's a lot of guys out there that can't really say that. I like seeing the mix of all those together. So that's just, but it's a constant thing, It's like your influences and your influences, taking the best pieces of those and kind of making this hybrid thing. And it's like Jimmy Chamberlain had a really good quote in Modern Drummer years ago where he was like, the best musicians are thieves that don't get caught. Right? So you stole something.
That's good. Yeah.
It's like Dave Grohl recording that whole record. Nevermind. He's like, yeah, I stole it from, I can't remember the band, but
Gap Band.
Yeah, Gap
Band.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I stole it from there. And everyone's like, wow, I had no idea. Well, he's a thief that got away with it until he admitted it. Right?
Yeah. Damn it, Dave. Keep your mouth shut, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I stole from you, so now you're saying I stole from the Gap Band. No. Yeah, people that say that, I agree. That's coming from a place of ignorance and just closed-mindedness, because you're saying a kick drum, a tom, and a snare drum, that's the only thing that can be drum. That not only drum,
Yeah, it's the next logical evolutionary step in music is that it's going to go electronic. So why be upset over it,
You saying that you like how you play is such a breath of fresh air, because I think, to be honest, because I think a lot of my friends, and I don't even think I would consider myself someone who can say that every day. More often than not, I go on the practice space, I'm like, well, what am I shitty at today I should be working on? I need to change that tune a little bit, It's very rarely that I know it's me playing in the background, I can hear it, and I go, that feels good. But the second I don't think it's me and I hear it, that changes things sometimes. But Eric, do you like your playing?
Yes and no. It's like I'm very proud of my playing. I'll say that. Do I like where I'm at currently? No, I'm greedy and I want more.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, like, if I'm going to be truly honest with myself, yeah, I guess I would say that I do like my playing. I would say that I like it more than I don't like it. I feel like it would stop being fun for you if you didn't like your own playing. Like, if we're all truly honest with ourselves, at least those of us that are still doing this and pursuing this, I think there's probably a degree of yeah, we like our playing. But obviously, we're also going to be like, oh, I want more. I want it to be better.
Yeah.
Yeah. To clarify, it's like I'm as you guys I'm sure are. I'm still by and far my harshest critic. Like I find I pick apart flaws all the time. I think what I'm trying to get at is I like where my head goes. I like when I listen back to things. I'm like, oh, I like that I did that there, or I like that I heard that thing with the vocals, or I really. It's more of that. I like the way that I think about the parts and orchestrate parts. Like that's what I would want to hear. It's like when bands, you can tell that the really good bands are the ones that write music that they want to hear, not the ones they think people want to hear. So
Mm-hmm.
I think what I'm trying to get at is I like the fact that I play parts that I want to hear. I like the influences that I can hear in my playing. So
yeah.
But to be clear, like there's a million things I want to fix just today at rehearsals. Like there's so many things I wish I would have done better, but it's just nature of the beast.
Well, and to be clear, I didn't take that. I think I knew what you meant, and I think my audience does too. But even the fact that I'm thinking, fuck, if I had the opportunity to completely overhaul my drumming and sound different, I might take myself up on that offer. Which I'm not sure if that's good or bad. And maybe that's something I need to journal about. But I enjoy playing. And I think when I'm playing, I'm having a good time. But I can maybe separate that from what I hear versus how I enjoy it when I'm actually playing it. And so I guess when it comes to how I make my money isn't necessarily the purest extension of what I want to say if I were able to play anything. So maybe just because I made this a career, I was forced to do things that maybe weren't fully my voice and lean into them. And so, yeah, I think I like my playing when I'm in my spot, improvising and messing around, but I don't always love my playing when I'm playing for other people, you know. But
For sure. We need to encourage that with more players. Like, I like my playing.
Yeah.
You know? You
that's
should.
why I want to talk
Yeah,
about it, because it made me
No, it's
happy
great.
hearing you say that.
Yeah. And so like direct.
Yeah.
Like it literally took me, I had to warm up before I said it. But no, yeah, I mean, like Ben said, it was really refreshing to hear. It was awesome. I again agree, like it doesn't read as narcissism at all.
But it's funny that you had that response when we were like talking about it, because you like almost wanted to then step away from it, not step away from it, but you know what I mean? Like you felt you had to, because we're so not used to being like, I think I'm kind of the shit. I think I kill it when I go on stage. You're like, what the? You're an asshole, dude. Who the hell are you having confidence, you know? And that's the show. If you're listening on a platform that allows ratings and reviews, do that. It helps more people find the show, so it'll get bigger and better, and hopefully I'll have a chance to sell out one day. But you'll be an OG listener that can brag to all your friends. Anyways, why don't you go and check us out at bigfatsnaredrum.com and follow us on all the socials. Just search for Big Fat Snare Drum and you will find us. The show is edited in part using Isotope RX Audio Editor. It's amazing, so go check that out at isotope.com. And thanks again to Gunnar Olsen for the theme music. Bye!
Starting a business can seem like a daunting task, unless you have a partner like Shopify. They have the tools you need to start and grow your business. From designing a website to marketing to selling and beyond, Shopify can help with everything you need. There's a reason millions of companies like Mattel, Heinz, and Allbirds continue to trust and use them. With Shopify on your side, turn your big business idea into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.